Hi! So today I'm going to be talking about Never Let Me Go, which is a book about a dystopian society in which clones are made in order for those clones to donate their vital organs in the end to people outside of Hailsham, which is the school that they're at. And basically, it talks about how like clones are it's basically in the end we find out that this whole school is really an experiment by Madame and her colleagues on how clones that are created in order to donate vital organs actually have feelings, and this book is really really big on the morality issue on, oh, should we save the people outside of Hailsham, or making clones and basically killing them to donate their vital organs to people outside of Hailsham is very immoral in itself. But it kind of, the idea that those people that are helped outside of Hailsham, they're basically seen as more important than the people in the Hailsham school, the clones there. So we can, this book was a lot like a 1984 by George Orwell, in that it's a dystopian society. And it basically talks a lot about the relationships between the people in the Hailsham school, and how, they actively deal with this idea of, oh, later in life, I'm gonna be donating my vital organs. And we can relate this back to just like normal life, because, I mean, we as humans, we all know that we're gonna die, and so it's just like these people in this book just know exactly how they're gonna die and pretty much when they're gonna die, which kind of changes things. We can compare it to individuals that are dealing with cancer, because they know exactly how they're gonna die and they're not sure when, but they have a good estimate of when. And so the way that individuals with cancer and other life-threatening diseases live is seen in a very similar fashion of how the kids at the Hailsham school live their lives. So basically, our main character and narrator is Kathy, and she basically, the book starts off as her talking about Hailsham School, and she's a carer now. So the book is being told in the perspective of the elder Kathy, and she talks about the past and how, this is what happened, and she illuminates the relationships that she's had with Tommy and Ruth, who are her two best friends from Hailsham. Tommy is a character who, at the beginning of the book, they talk a lot about how on page 21, Tommy failed to lose his temper. I'm sorry. My own memory of it is that Tommy was always known for his temper, even in the infants, but he claimed to me that they only began after the teasing got bad. So we see Tommy as a character who basically can't control his anger. He has anger issues and a lot of it is because the other kids at Hailsham are pestering him, and Kathy is one of the very few people that actually kind of wants to stay by his side and help him through that. And Ruth is the typical bossy, top class girl in school who she's just the one who everybody looks up to, and she sees herself as better than everyone else. And even regardless, however, Kathy and Ruth are good friends, and we can see how their relationship goes downhill, but throughout the book. But then it gets better as I believe it's when Ruth helps Kathy find her cassette that had the song Never Let Me Go on it. So that kind of strengthened their relationship. Another thing that I want to talk about with this book is that the concept of love, which is also reintroduced in this book, just like the unbearable lightness of being. And it talks a lot about how Kathy and Tommy these students are introduced to this idea of a deferral, and how if you can prove to the authorities that you're in love with someone, you get a few more years to live, which is obviously appealing to all the students at Hailsham. But the idea of like actually what is like love that you can characterize, like how can the authorities define that love that Kathy and Tommy claim to have later on, and Ruth and Tommy attempt to make earlier before that. And so personally, I feel like Kathy and Tommy kind of created this perception of love as a response to the deferral. I don't believe it was completely genuine, in that they never really experienced this emotion previous to that point, other than the interactions they had in terms of Kathy standing up for Tommy. But those interactions are well seen in like friendship, and so basically this book kind of talks about how like the extent to which you would alter your relationship with an individual and to get like more years to live. And we can kind of compare this to like everyday life, and like just see how hard it is for these Hailsham students to like know that, oh, like there's somebody out there that deserves my organs more than I do. And that idea is just really devastating for the Hailsham students. And I know when I was reading this book, I got really emotional, because it was just like, wow, like these kids are basically told that they're not worthy of the organs that they were born with, and the people outside of Hailsham deserve them more than they do. So I know an excerpt in the book talks about Miss Lucy talking to Thomas and Kathy, and the idea of that something more, which I perceived as the something more is just like the idea of a normal life that Kathy and Tommy really strive to have. And it's just like, oh, only if like we were living for a normal life, because like they've been living this normal life. Like they interact with each other, they have great relationships, they make artwork, they are living up to like as if it was a normal life. And that something more is just like the idea of like the idea of them donating their organs is just like, it's not something prevalent in like their everyday life up until they have to get to their first donation, and then reality hits them and they're like, this is our destiny. And so the something more is just really it was a really interesting aspect that they brought up in the book, and it kind of brought the emotional side of basically this whole idea of a Hailsham school. But the thing that got me the most with this book is like at the end, they were trying so hard to get this deferral and trying to fall in love and stuff, and then Madame is just like, oh, actually that deferral doesn't exist. And this Hailsham school was really just an experiment, like a way of showing that clones have feelings. But I mean, what was that worth? Like it was. I believe Miss Lucy says like they're just like parts of a game, and I don't exactly remember the quote, but this just like shows their insignificance, the Hailsham students' insignificance in terms of the entire country, or like wherever the outer world extends upon. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed this book because it evokes an emotional response in the reader. It it's just like, oh, like it's like a what if. It can be seen as a sci-fi, because something like this obviously wouldn't be able to happen in like the world that we're living in right now, because it's immoral and completely not justifiable. However, it was well written, and I really enjoyed reading this book.